Welcome back to the Rent Roll Queen podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Reebok, the Real Estate Business Owners Conference. Do you need all those subscriptions to run an efficient business? Today, Brock Fisher speaks with us about technology and how you can run your business efficiently. Welcome to the show, Brock.
It's great to be here, Tarsi. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's fabulous to have you on. So you and I have been in this industry, this beautiful industry called real estate, for over 26 years, basically, or around 26 years. And we have both seen some very big changes in our industry over that time. So today I was hoping we could talk about technology and everything that we have seen and how the industry has changed so much.
Yeah, it'd be great to have a chat about that. Obviously, a subject that's pretty close to my heart. So,
yes.
Yeah, I think all those years ago when we first started, before GST was even a thing that you had to put on management authorities, how times have changed. I mean, at the same time, so many things have stayed the same as well. So, yeah, it's interesting to kind of think about the evolution of tech in that time and, you know, some of the more exciting stuff that's starting to pop its head up now.
Yeah. Can you give us a little rundown about your history in the industry?
Yeah, so I started in real estate in 1998, must have been, back in country New South Wales in a city called Bathurst. So I started at Rain and Horn in Bathurst. I was there for 5 years before my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, decided she was going to move to Queensland. So I thought, hey, why not? So that prompted me to kind of pack up all my worldly possessions into a Toyota Hiace van and head north across the border. And we set up home in Brisbane and have been there ever since. So that journey has taken me through businesses like Ray White Ascot, working with Dwight Ferguson there, and actually Damon Warren as well, who's the principal of the business now. We used to work together like 20 years ago. Had a stint as an on-site manager, so worked for a Brisbane family that had quite a significant private property portfolio, and then transitioned into a business called Rental Express, which was quite a large-scale, fast-growth, very innovative, forward-thinking business in Brisbane. I was actually fortunate to acquire a very small shareholding in the business and became, one of the business owners. At the end of 2015, I think we were acquired by the Little Group. So yes. I moved into the Little real estate business, which is, the largest property management business in the country. And from there moved into the property technology sector with a product that was called Agent Plus, which we rebranded 6 months after that to Colmio. And that's where I've been for the last 5 years.
Yeah, wow. So you've definitely seen a lot of changes come on through the industry. So what sort of software were you using when you had first, or how was the process and procedures of when you first came into the industry versus now?
Yeah, so if I think back to my very first software program, I think it was a product called Clark's Rent Trust. And, people who have extremely long memories might remember the Clark's product. They were later bought, I think, by Rockend and rolled into the Rockend and Rest suite of products, and now owned by MRI. But I would imagine by this stage of proceedings, anyone on the old product would have been moved across probably to Rest Professional and then hopefully onto Property Tree, given that we're in the cloud era.
I have just seen an office that is still on the old Rest system.
Yeah, well,
it's insane.
Some people swear by the on-premise stuff. I mean, I saw a comment from the owner of the Sherlock software product recently, like 6 months ago, and he still offers both cloud and on-premise solutions. So, yeah, horses for courses, I think. But, I mean, there are some advantages to server-based stuff, but very costly and not very agile, and obviously, very location-dependent as well. So it's hard to beat the flexibility and the agility that comes with cloud-based computing.
Yeah, no, it really does. I really love the cloud-based, and it's so strange to see still agencies that are still on the old systems. Because don't get me wrong, some of them were quite good. The reporting was quite good, so I really did like that. But you have all these new efficiencies, and the reason that you have those is to become more efficient.
Yeah, so I think change in property management has always been something that I think industry-wide has been quite a struggle, and I think that probably ties back to some of the challenges we're seeing around staffing and recruiting at the moment. So from a business owner and principal's perspective, or even a department head, the prospect of kind of unsettling your team by going through an expansive change management process and changing your operating system is something that they just prefer to kind of avoid.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the reality of business evolution is you need to continue to be forward thinking and to change in times in line with both customer experience expectations, but also you need to be able to gain that competitive advantage. And if we think about property management as a business model, it's one that has generally always been pretty hard to make a very attractive profit compared to other industries. So, I see a lot of businesses who are either not running at a profit at all in their property management business and, are largely subsidized by the sales side of the business, or historically operating, around about that 10% profit margin. And if you think about how that compares to other industries, there's lots of businesses in other industries that wouldn't even get out of bed for a 10% profit margin.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about the complexity of the role, the wafer thin profit margins, and how you might become more profitable, and also how you might diversify your revenue stream so you're not just solely dependent on management fee income, these are all, pretty good business decisions to make. And if you don't kind of make them, you will get left behind, because if you're not evolving, if you're standing still, you're really kind of going backwards.
Well, that's the thing too. And, you've got to, it's all about your service level.
Yeah.
So you need to be efficient to service something at a high quality level. And if you're not evolving, and I'm not saying to have all different, every single bells and whistles of every single software that is out there, you need to be very specific, because that's another thing. And I'm sure you've seen it too, where they have so many subscriptions.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think there's probably two different ways that I'd like to approach that. I think the first thing is, you make a really good point that we are in a service-based industry. And so I think the risk really is less about you being replaced by technology, but more about being overrun by businesses who use it really effectively. So I kind of think about this through the lens of, you've got to understand as a human where you add value in the property management equation. And so all technology, and also other systems like, offshore support falls into this category as well, should all be geared towards making sure that you spend as much time in that high value space as possible. And I think it's a bit of a mistake sometimes where people choose tech solutions that actually replace what could be a really high quality human interaction.
Yeah.
And I think those sorts of decisions will inevitably result in businesses who execute well and make decisions that put their property managers and their service providers at the forefront of their customers' mind. I think they will inevitably overrun people that go down a heavily tech-driven path and try and replace that interaction, because ultimately that is what sets you apart. And one of the great challenges of property management has always been differentiation and how you look different from the office down the road or across the street.
Yes.
And inevitably that comes with the human component of that. So if everyone is kind of experiencing a very anonymous, vanilla, tech-driven type of thing, then basically the customer chooses the cheapest version of that. And that's definitely not what we want. But the other point you raised there is really, really important as well. I think just adding tech for the sake of it is fraught with danger in so many respects. And once again, to use the tech analogy with the offshore analogy, which I think is very similar, quite often people mistake tech for being the actual solution, but just getting a tech product into your business is just the first part of that journey. It's really how you implement that, how you embed that in your business practices, how you go to market with your customer base, and how they need to interact with a piece of tech. So tech, like offshoring, is not in and of itself the actual answer. It's what you do with it that really counts. And so the real risk with both of those things is that you just add cost and complexity to your business and just actually go nowhere.
Yes.
And so I think one of the best pieces of advice I got was actually from a mate of mine who's a chef, and he talks about the fact that if you're trying to come up with a really good dish, sometimes the best thing you can do is actually take something off it. So simplicity is the key, and I think tech is very similar, that sometimes the temptation is just to add more, when in fact taking something away might get you a better outcome, because you might simplify your user experience, simplify your customer experience, reduce your costs, because there's no point paying for a whole load of different things if you're not actually using it in your business and if your customers aren't getting value out of it.
Well, the problem that I have seen is that they will have like 2 or 3 different types of software, but it does the same thing. And it's like, as a business owner, you're so time poor, right? And then you're trying to rely, and because a lot of business owners aren't well invested into their property management departments, let's face it, a lot of them are sales dominant principals. They don't really know enough about property management. They don't know the process of property management. They've never really used the software. So they haven't taken time to learn it, to understand what their property management team's actually going to need. And so they literally sit down. It's like, oh, the property manager comes, there's this brilliant software. Can we get this in our business? I think it would help us with this, a solution to this problem. And instead of them actually sitting down and understanding that program, they literally go for like the demo and go, yep, that's actually perfect, but haven't looked at the solutions they've already got in their office to understand it. And then they finally get something on. They don't even train their staff in it properly, like, because it's like, oh, that's another expense for my business, instead of investing in that part of their business to basically give them time to understand it and even for themselves to understand it properly. Yeah. That's what I see.
Yeah, the hype train is real in the prop tech space, and there's been an explosion of individual solutions to each part of the property management puzzle over the last, several years now. And the everyday reality for people in property management businesses is there's no shortage of solutions coming around looking for a problem to try and solve. So the hype that comes with that is difficult to kind of not become intoxicated by. But I think the best piece of advice I could give any business owner or department head is you need to be really clear on what your individual problems and requirements are that you're trying to solve before you actually go out and try and find a solution for it.
Yeah.
Because if you're choosing solutions before you even understand what your actual problems are, that's fraught with danger. And that's something that's going to add, just in one of those classic examples you've just mentioned, where you add a thing, it's shiny, it costs, but no one's using it. And so it's just yet another subscription that you've added to your business. But yeah, it's surprising, like you said, the amount of businesses that I've come across over the years that have multiple versions of something that does the same thing, and they're not actually effectively using any of them. So this is just a massive cost on the balance sheet for the business, and no one's getting any value out of it.
Or one person's using it, the other person's not. And it's like, well, you got to streamline also the process and procedures in your own business.
Yeah.
So if everyone's using different stuff, or somebody doesn't know how to use it effectively, that's actually that's on you. Like and I always say to people, the onus is on you as a business owner to actually know everything about your business. Yeah. I know it is tiring. I know it's exhausting. I know that you can get burnt out. I understand that you have a million things to do. But if you don't actually understand the processes that are going on behind the scenes to make sure that that is actually happening, then you literally have just checklists, like a piece of paper with some boxes on it. You have a bunch of programs that, and let's face it, they're ever evolving as well. So, you need to constantly be looking at what you're doing. You have no idea how to do it. How do you expect your property managers to know what they're doing? Yeah. Then you're paying for that service to your property managers, but they still can't even be efficient as what they possibly could be.
Yeah.
Same with an offshore, right? You employ offshore and
yeah. And I think the goal from a business perspective is to have your processes that are uniform and repeatable.
Yes.
So that it doesn't matter who's actually performing that process, the customer is still getting the same sort of experience.
Yeah.
And if you think about the amount of time and effort we put into trying to grow rent rolls and, leverage the whole concept of referral-based, net promoter score type referral to try and grow your business. So much of that hinges on the fact that you need to have processes that aren't person dependent, that are actually just repeatable and uniform in your business. Because if you have a rockstar property manager and they're referring people into the business, at some point they're going to hit their capacity and clients are going to have to be looked after by someone else in the team. So what you don't want to have there is a scenario where there's a drastic gap in the experience that person's having just because of who they're dealing with. Mm-hmm. So the holy grail for all property management businesses, I think, is to come up with a uniform and repeatable way of doing all of your processes so that it doesn't matter who is doing it, the customer is still getting that same sort of experience. And that's where you can really harness and leverage the power of referral-based organic growth to continue to grow your business. And that's why it's so important. If you're introducing all of these tools into your business, firstly, you know what problem it is you're trying to solve with that piece of tech. And secondly, once you've introduced it, just getting it is the very first step in actually quite a lengthy journey. Yes. You've got to figure out how it works with all of your existing processes, how your team is going to use it, embed it into your operational systems, and then make sure that people are actually using it. Otherwise, you're just adding cost and it makes no sense.
Well, that's it. And it's also the templates, right? So if you're going to add software in and it comes with templates and all the rest of it, you've got to sit down and actually create all the templates to make sure that your communication piece is actually, like you said, uniformed. So there's so much to tech that people don't look at when they go, oh, I'm going to invest in another tech. So as a business owner, it's extremely important to really sit down and really actually understand what is going on in your business first and foremost, like you have said.
Yeah.
Understand your problems and understand the actual software that you currently have or technology that you currently have in your business. and see how it can solve the problem. Like, can we continue to use this?
Yeah.
Before we go, oh, the property managers, oh my gosh, you should see this piece of tech. You know, they go to a conference, they come back with another piece of tech. Oh my gosh.
But I think also the procurement process in property management is not very sophisticated when you compare that to how other industries would make these sorts of decisions. And so quite often if someone hasn't just fallen for the hype train trick where a shiny thing has been put in front of them, they go, well, that's amazing. I think the second most common way that people make these decisions is they simply ask Facebook. But just because you've got 20 answers that say, yes, XYZ product is great, doesn't mean that it's great for your business because firstly, whoever's recommending it to you, do they have a business that looks like yours? Is it a similar size? Do they have a similar structure? What's the rest of their tech stack like? What's their customer base like? Like, is there any similarity at all between that person's business and your person's business that would then lead you to conclude that, oh, yes, this would be a good choice? So I think consultation is definitely part of the procurement process, but you need to go a lot deeper than just, hey, is this good? Yes, it's good. Cool. Tell me why it's good. Also tell me why it's not good, but also tell me about your business, how you've got it set up, what are the things that you use, what the customer expectations are. It's really that kind of next level. Yeah. And I think for each of the individual tech things that are put in front of you, it's important to consider all those at a holistic level, like not just as an individual use case. And that comes down to not only how your people are going to use that. So it might be functionally excellent for what it does, but how does it fit into the rest of the ecosystem that you have in the business and what's the everyday experience going to be like? But from a customer experience perspective as well, if that particular tech product is great at what it does, but there's also 5 other things that you're expecting your owners and your tenants to use, is that the customer experience that you want? And I think uniformity and kind of consolidating those tech experiences, particularly for your customers, is really important because not many people want to go to, one thing for part of the journey, another thing for another part of the journey, maybe log into a different portal again. And I think, from a customer's point of view and owners and a tenant's perspective, the more simple and the more useful just a single technological feature of your business is, then the more I will like it because the more you add, the lower your uptake rate is going to be there.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with that. I mean, I do valuations and I also do due diligence and I have to literally go from one tech to another tech. And I can tell you now that the amount of information that goes missing because they're utilizing so much different technology is unbelievable. And it really does affect even the goodwill and the value of that rent roll because then I can't, like when I have to go to a buyer and be like, I can't produce this information because it's not there.
Yeah.
Well, that's a representation of how you have managed that portfolio. So,
And I think there's 2 things I'd like to add there. The first is, I mean, you're right. There are hidden operational killers in your business if you have to double handle, triple handle, quadruple handle things between multiple systems. So you really need to think about how that flow works. But the second thing I would add there is it's really important to understand where the key information and data actually sits.
Yes.
Because remember, you only have one primary system of record in your business, which should be your primary operating system. So if you're using a lot of different individual tech products and all of the key information and data and artifacts and IP and process related information is residing in that program, and then you later decide for whatever reason it's too hard or it's too expensive or whatever, and you want to turn that off, you've got to think about what is in that program that you are now going to lose and how you're going to bring that into your primary operating system. Yeah, so that unfortunately is something that people only kind of think about when it comes time to get rid of a tech product, and then they think about the years of information in it and go, gee.
So business owners need to, when they don't have everything stored and then they transfer it across to another program and so forth, then they have to have a read only because they don't have that information stored somewhere that they can, or they haven't extracted it and taken the time to do that job.
So it's a good discussion to have up front when you are in that kind of giddy honeymoon phase of being wooed by the property technology offering. Make sure you understand exactly where the information sits and how you can get it at the end. It's kind of, to use the bad analogy, it's like a prenuptial agreement. If you think about the end at the beginning, then there should be no surprises at the end, if that makes sense. And if that discussion is kind of not what you would ideally like, it doesn't mean you shouldn't go forward with that, but it might just be a case of making sure you add an extra step at the end of each of your processes so that every time someone completes something in that program, perhaps the final step is to bring a version of that across to your primary operating system and save it so that you've always got that in your main database.
Yeah, you should have like a bit of a mirror, so that way you've always got it. And I mean, I've always said that anyway, like you need your two back, like, you know, if the program goes down, you've at least got it somewhere else. If the computer goes down, at least you've got it in your program. So, because it's, you know, cloud-based, you can take that anywhere and you literally can run, like basically create another computer straight away, because you literally log in and you can get started. So, you know, I plug it in your internet. So there's so many things that you can do to mitigate risk and loss, but also to become more profitable, and then at the end of the day have more value in your actual business.
Yeah, and before you even go shopping for individual tech solutions, are you actually using your primary operating system effectively? Because the amount of times I've had discussions with people who have got an individual solution and have been surprised to find that their actual system does that. They just didn't realize. So I think that's part of that kind of procurement and understanding your own requirements and your own problems is, can your system do this now? Have you had the level of training that allows you to understand the full system functionality and what you can do? Because if you're looking to solve a problem just because you actually don't know that you can already solve that problem, then once again, you're in that kind of hurdy-gurdy of adding cost and complexity when the answer could be right under your nose.
That's it. And it happens all the time. And you and I have seen that over our experience of being in this industry. Brock, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate your insights and everything that we have spoken about.
Thank you. It's been great to chat.